out today, Mike is doing a final sand out of the fuselage. A couple little steps we still have to do. We still have to make up a rudder. We need to glass the nose. But the last thing is sanding out all these little detail spots up around the cockpit. Sanding the fillets. You got that fillet tool? Using that fillet tool up there?
Yeah.
Okay, the little rubber polywogs, the fillet tool. So he'll have a couple hours of sanding here while I'm doing the day's production, and then we're going to try to get the nose glass today if we possibly can. The trick with sanding a fillet is not to go sanding back and forth, because you make a ditch at the end of each side of it. Is to work in. Let me see the shape of that tool, Mike. Okay, using the quarter inch rubber polywog, move the sandpaper constantly and work in, work down. And never go in one spot where you're going up and down without moving the tool, or else you're carving a ditch. You're always carving a ditch. You got to constantly be moving it, almost like an orbital sander. Mike is doing a little rough out. We're trying to rough out a shape of a rudder for this. We want it to be a little custom. Mike doesn't want anybody to know it's a Cardinal. Yeah, just
I might try making up something.
Rough it out. As I said, I'll keep answering the phone all day long. You ring it, I'll answer it.
Every time you get on the phone.
Okay, Mike is determined to make this look like it's not a Cardinal. I don't know if he's going to succeed though. Okay, now you put the airfoil in the rudder.
Yes.
And you got the edge. I always like to do this whole edge.
Yep.
Hardened up with thin CA. Now you don't have to worry about this. You sand that, you know, you put a parallel line in there.
Yeah, we got to get that.
You got to trace this out so we get a notch. You want a tongue and groove. Never do this like some guys just glue that right to the top.
No.
No good. Make a notch, let it sink in, and then we'll put a ruler against the back edge. You don't really have to, but. And then once this is all in position, then we can cut our rudder shape. So far it's doing pretty good. Mike's been sanding away. Even that little spot where we have, I wouldn't call it a thumbprint. I don't know what we're going to call that yet. We're not sure we know what we're going to call it yet. Okay, so you got to make yourself a little line on there. Now you can get a brand new blade and notch it out a little bit on the underside. Don't notch it too much. Leave leave the line on. Because all we want to do is kind of have some tension on that, and then we can run a straight edge this way so we don't have the rudder off to one side or the other, and so we have the rudder straight this way because we want a nice straight hinge line.
Yes, we do.
Okay, there, that notch should be a little on the tight side. Try to insert the rudder in, and then just take a little piece of sandpaper and take a little bit off at a time until it sits without wanting to flop one way or the other. You get it to sit in there by at least, yeah, that's how you can do it. Okay, if it's too tight, I mean, don't force it. Take a little kerf with the sandpaper off. You can use a nail file if you want. Make sure you're holding it straight up and down so you don't build a little edge in there. Okay, try it again. Just keep trying it till you get it a nice tight fit. You get it nice and straight there, or you still got to take a little bit off?
Nope. See him. She's in.
The way to get the alignment is you put a tack, just a drop of glue on one side. We could still move this. See, we're still in this position here where we can move it. One side is tacked and one isn't. So now this will allow me to get right down here and look straight down. Now if it's off like that, I can get it real accurate this way. Mike can double check it from the front. Then we'll put a tack here, just a drop. Look at it straight from the top now. Pull it right from the top. I'll squeeze it here. Because these shells are thin back here, but this is what makes it lighter than if you made a block. One drop, and then run a ruler up the back. We don't care about the hinge line, just that it's straight when you look from the front. Put one tack on each side. You already got that side tacked. Yeah, just tack it in case we have to cut it. Then go sit in the front and see if it's right. You'll know right away as soon as the glue kicks off. Looks okay?
It's not bad, boy.
Oh, I like to look from the top straight down. Crooked. Crooked. See, he doesn't know. See, you break it. Now that's straight right there. Now tack it. Like the best years of my life. Now tack where my thumb is. So you can glue my thumb right.
I can do that.
Yeah, I bet you can. Just tack it. Don't. Once you make a permanent, okay, let it go. I want to see a straight line. Better. Better.
You liar! What?
Okay, now you could run the glue seam. Now run it. Now I feel safe that you've accomplished much in your life, my son. Buzz Brodak will include you in on her will. It's M-I-K-E, Buzz, K-I-J-E-S-K-Y.
Why?
Why? Because we like you. All right.
Okay.
So what now? See, we don't have this even. We gotta get the ruler. Do it with a ruler. Why fool around? You got the big black ruler right up there.
This one?
Yeah.
Or this one?
Doesn't matter. And that'll give us that straight edge. And just block sand in until it gets perfectly straight.
Look at that. That's no big deal.
64th of an inch. But you want that to be right. That's important. And then as soon as that's done, we'll make up the rudder.
Put the glasses.
How much do you have to take off?
Oh, about 8.
Okay. Okay, take it off.
No big deal.
No big deal.
No biggie. No biggie.
Lazy Mary is smoking that there's only one man you should marry.
And the last thing, when you get it real nice, get that long sanding block, and we'll put a center line on there so you can, put the hinge pockets in. Does it look okay?
Good.
Nice and straight.
I think we need new paper on here.
The center line on there, you got the edges, the angles, and just cut your little notches for the hinges. Roughed out the rudder. Now we need to put a center line on it. Just dress off all the edges and get a center line on everything. We laid out the hinge pockets. Yeah, flip the bench on. Always dress the edges off before you put a center line on, just makes it easier. I think you got the shape. That's going to be a nice shape to match. And there isn't one person in the world will have any clue that this might be a Cardinal. John Brodak will never know. And just work your airfoil into that shape. Now you want to make one of those plywood things instead of a nylon, a plywood horn? Okay.
Yep. Something different.
Okay.
We got it.
Okay, so Mike's going to put the hinge line on there. He's got it roughly airfoiled in. Same way we always do with a piece of tape. Put another piece of tape on and take the original one off. And then we'll cut the little hinge pockets. And we're going to make a little plywood horn up for this for his Ray Blotter connection too. Basically, this is going to be the end of the woodworking on the plane, except for the final sanding, so I can tell he's getting excited.
Yes.
Those hinges you have are a little small. Put those notches in and then just open it up just a little bit.
Small one?
The small one. Use the small ones. It's easy to make them bigger than... If you have a big hinge slot, it's going to look sloppy. We always have our cute little hinge making tool, hinge pocket tools with sandpaper on them. So if you got the hinge slots even. Ah, yeah, lucky duck. Okay, you got to move it down a little bit. The bottom, lay a ruler on the bottom and make sure it's even on the bottom. Okay?
Done.
Put a ruler on it. Don't do it by eye. Just lay a ruler on it. Here. Because if it's wrong, you want to sand it in. Take it out and just lay a ruler right across the bottom. Square? No, it goes up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so push it down just a little bit. Put the hinges and everything. Just go down just the amount you need to get it down. Just a little bit, okay. Now you can always re-put, if it's too big you can sand it off, but if it's too small it's going to start looking like you missed.
Still off a little bit.
Push it down some more. Take it out and put it back in if you have to.
We're losing the top.
No, the top we're going to put a new edge on. You can put a new edge on the top, but the bottom has got to line up. Just put a new line on the top.
I think maybe we're going to have to add a piece on back here.
No, you're not going to have to add anything. Just get the bottom. Put a ruler on the bottom. And then we'll block sand that top edge in. That's got to be straight. It looks funny when that's not a straight line. Close?
Close.
You'd be surprised, even if that's off just a little bit, it just doesn't look right. And try to keep the points. Don't round off the points. This thing Mike's making up a little piece of 64th plywood oversize, because that's where people hold the plane when they're going to launch it. If you try to make that out of balsa, you're just asking for a repair job. Once you get it glued in, then we'll take it out with a Dremel wheel, and then we'll be able to work that fillet in. We'll probably put a little bit of air epoxy light along there. That'll build it up. It'll be strong, because that takes a beating. How many planes you see with a big people holding it that way? They hold it like it's a beer can. The Raby rudder linkage, we want it to go just a slight bit down, so when this is in full up and full down, we have about a 1/16 of an inch of clearance. Take out a little bit, get a brand new blade and just router bit out that little bit and glue it in. I always like the way that looks better than that nylon stuff.
Yeah, I don't like the plastic jazz.
It's press fit, okay.
I'll put some
What are you going to do?
heavy stuff.
It won't matter. Such a perfectionist. That looks like probably all we're going to get done today right there. Anyway, this was a pretty good day. I would be willing to say quit while you're ahead, Krajewski.
I hear you, Father.
And today's mail, this is from our buddy Ken Clapson, who's building a pond racer with a Cardinal kit. Notice it's a swept forward wing, multiple control horns. This is one of the wildest planes. I just can't. It's got 2 4-strokes in it. I can't wait to see how this is going to fly. This is possibly the most unusual of the ships that I've ever seen. They've got a whole set of pictures here. And he's got it up in silver already. Side-mounted engines. I'm not sure, I believe this is a take-apart plane too. I'm not sure. I got to read his note. He's got a pretty extensive note here. And we got another little treat in store. Now, I know he's making carbon fiber or e-glass. In fact, the note says he's going to use e-glass to have the cheek cowls made. Anyway, the real plane has little Oldsmobile engines in it. We have plenty of video of the original Pond Racer. Quite a plane. This ought to really be something special. I can't wait to see it. From our buddy Ken Clapson. And he also sent Shady's Pond. Now see, it's maybe I should claim some credit for this. I've got people, a lot of people too, sending videos of their shops. We got Rutherford's shop, Don Dixon's shop coming up. It's neat to be able to see other people's shops. Elliot Scott, who I had dinner with this Saturday when he was in New York, is building a building from the ground up, from a concrete foundation. So what I think is going to happen is somewhere on here, I'll try to pull off some of this video, not too much. And Ken, of course, is one of my favorite people. Anybody that's doing some project like this has just got to be a cool guy. He's donated a lot of the Reno Air Race videos, and we're going to try to, well, we hope, get some video on here for you, Ken, and I want to see this. I hope you get video of it flying. Anyway, from Ken Clapson in Canada. Share the world of stunt with Wendy. And please, anybody else out there, I hope I can get Gerald Champ and get, I mean, how many people? Geez, I'm going to leave people out if I do this. Please, shoot 5 minutes of video around your shop, your house. We want to see, put a face on it. We want to see what you do for a living, picture of your backyard. I don't know. That's how we get to share each other's lives. Here's a guy in Alberta, Canada, and it's as if he lives next door. I think that's great. Now, we've been trying to flip-flop back and forth between several projects here. Fuselage was done a couple days ago. Mike's plane is at a point where we can take a break and work on our wing for a day or two. Going to try to finish up the ink and electrosets on the wing. And we have this weekend coming. Dave Midgley's coming to put the paint job on the carbon fiber wing plane. So we have a window of about 2 days or 3 days here. And I want to ink up. The next step on this project is to get all the ink work on the wing. And then the last thing, to put the whole plane together and see that it ties together in a way that we're going to be happy with. Now, I figured it would be the easiest to start the wing with laying out where the gear doors. I made up these parts in 64th plywood just to see how, so I could lay them out on the wing and get some idea of where and how this was going to fit in. By the way, I've been looking at Ken Clapson's video of the pond racer, and somewhere on this tape, when we get to a break point, I'll put a couple of minutes of that on instead of a segment of the way we were, because I think that's very significant, and that's a really unique model. That's something really special. Now, the first step is, I've been making these up with 64th plywood to try to get them to lay out in a realistic, and again, having the book right there. They can't be exactly scale, that we know, but we certainly can look at what the possibilities are here. This is one of the interpolation things that I'm not so sure that we can use the front line of the cowl door. That we certainly can use, but we need to make a piece segment down this way to be scale. Anyway, what I'm going to do, the first thing with all these patterns, I got to cut some holes to hold them in place. They always radius off all the edges. Doesn't even hurt to take a little bit of like some 1200 sandpaper and put a nice edge on there. But this way you can have accurate patterns for every part of, your ink work. I got the tape, and I'm going to have to do both sides just to raise this up off the part while I'm inking it. A little interpolation over here. I don't know if that's going to be more scale, because we can't get this to go up against the fuselage. But I don't want to make the doors bigger than they should be, or it's not going to look scale when you imagine that they would fold down. I was really impressed on that Ken Clapson video. I'll probably have to break it into 2 or 3 pieces, because he's got a GB on there. He didn't tell me he's making a GB. He surprises me with this stuff. By the way, the trick is here to use the ultra fine pen to put the corners in. Get the corners dressed off. And it looks like we have a close simulation of what the... Believe me when I tell you, after the clear is on, you got to go back over all these white ink lines about 6 times. But the end result is they really pop. Now those gear I like the way they space, the way they look, the scale looks right. Even when you put the blocks in. Now what I did, I wanted to show this was the whole reason for doing this. I wanted the line to go right through the line, and I'm trying, maybe I'll use paint here instead of ink. Yeah, it might be better with paint to get this to go down in here, so that when you put that little block on, what's going to happen? It picks up that line. Now we got to make the separation lines, and I couldn't make the separation lines that go through here until I was done with this part. Now I have to cut this part, and then this will be a pretty good simulation of what our gear doors will look like, either a little bigger or a little smaller, within some proportion. Important to set this into scale, because the rest of whatever lining we're going to do, and I'm certainly not going to try even roughly to make a scale line, but I want it to be a reality line, something that looks a little realistic here. So now, having these in place, again, the next thing is I have to put that separation line that separates the two gear doors from opening. And I'm going to cut that part. Then I'm going to start laying out with the ruler in place some of the longer lines first. And notice, like all projects, I'm doing the bottom of the plane first. Now what I want to do is put these lines on with the thickest pen I can that's practical, because these really are separation lines. Now what I did, I wiped these parts down with M600, but they still have a lot of fingerprints on them just from handling them, and people in the shop that go over and abuse my parts. Now I'll wait till this dries, ink in this last little piece of the white ink, and keep in mind that white ink we may have to, even before we put the clear, and go over 2 or 3 times, but it seems like to me it really adds a nice dimension. You just keep scrubbing away, it'll eventually scratch the surface underneath and get the ink to stick. Here are the thin. These are the drafting guns, because you can bend them around the wing. And as I lay out some of the lines, and again, I'm looking to make a copy, but not an exact copy of it. These work real well in terms of when you want to lay one out front to back with the airfoil. You can either tape it down or hold it down. They make a nice flexible edge to work with. The rulers are good, especially the long ones, for working in the span length, the long length. Because remember, we're going over, not over a, look at this, I get UPS delivery. Now the thing that always is easier to do for me, because I work alone most of the time, unless somebody happens to be here, is tape the ruler in place. I have the tape underneath so it's sitting up off the part. And now where a white line and a black line coincide, first it's important to let the black ink dry, otherwise when you bring the white ink up it turns gray in the middle. Give that a minute or two to dry. The white ink, again, can be a little bit of a, well, you've got to keep after it. And it's a good idea, if you're not using it, to put that little cap on the pen, too, that keeps the tip, which is what's happening to me lately as I've been answering the phone and things. If you leave that tip on while you're not using it, it seems like it's just a lot easier to use. The thing I always find, as well as doing the bottom first, but it makes my job easier, is I do one ink line, and then I go to the other panel and reverse it. Rather than trying to fill up a wing, because then later on you forget, or you lose your measurements, or your reference, or you forget which one you did first. Just an easier way is, now in this case I put this line, and down here, as soon as I do the white, I'll flip it over, do the same line out there. Then look at my little template for the bottom, because remember the bottom and the top are different. And then I'll kind of figure out where the next set of lines will go, flip it over, do the other side, and then reference the book, and continue that cycle until I have the amount of lines or the amount of references that I think will look appropriate for this plane. And again, it's real important that that black ink dry before I go on to the white ink, because when you get to the end, it can pick up if there's a wet spot and it muddles it. Muddle's a nice word. Anyway, I gotta tell you, Mike, that you heard the doorbell ring. It wasn't UPS with my Saito engines. It was Mike Costello, fresh back from VSC, with my Buttafuoco T-shirt. Brought me back an official Buttafuoco T-shirt. Now see, just by going back and forth here, I'm kind of scratching the surface. And I let that dry, and then I just go over it a second time. Once it is clear on, I can put another coat on, and it should be pretty acceptable. I'm doing this ink job. I've been looking at Ken's video. Absolutely beautiful. This is really a creative model. I don't know how much of this we're going to be able to get on video, but he's done a really good job. And for anybody that doesn't know, he makes these giant greenhouses, a couple of 100 feet long, giant. You can see I've tried to get, this is the end of the really thick lines, the 120s. Now from the 120s, now I'm going to go down in pen size and pick out the smaller, more delicate details. But again, I flip-flop back and forth to get them pretty well equal. And if I do one at a time, like this one that blends into the navigation light, I have one that's going to wrap around the front there now, so I need to be aware of where that's going to come out on the other side. Watching this and watching Ken freezing up there in Alberta. Oh man. But this is what makes our lives special. We can share these kind of things, and the little effort that it takes to make a videotape, it's almost like I flew up to Alberta to check out the pond racer. Anyway, I just think that's a little special thing that we have going. While that ink is drying up, I checked my Buttafuoco Stunt Odyssey t-shirt. By the way, you can get these. They're commercially available. And on the sleeve it says, "Forget about it." Anyway, if you saw any of the Nats videos from last year, you have some idea of what's going on with that Buttafuoco stunt. They're available from Brett Buck. Brett Buck is the West Coast distributor. Details are more delicate here, so I'll do those with the smaller pen, a 6.0. And then some of the little fine work, there's going to be at least 4 different thicknesses of pen line on this one side of the wing by the time I'm done. Now we get to the difficult part, and the difficult part is always where do we want to either add a line or take a line away, or where have we gotten too many thick lines and not enough thin ones, or where have we not put enough rivets, and if you haven't seen any of those little techniques that I've used, they're all on the video just before this. Where do we want to make this a little more realistic looking? Again, this is a point where I like to back up, go have a cup of coffee, or watch Ken Clapson's video again or whatever, and just try to look at it. See, I don't want to put anything on the fuselage because I know when I put the whole plane together I'll want to maybe or maybe not do something there. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. But just looking at it from several different angles, if nothing else, we're close. It's safe to say we're close to what we originally envisioned as being a relatively good inking job. Set up a little table here for Mike because we're going to try to get the glass work done on the nose today, but Mike wanted to do a little more sanding, get his tail fillet done. He's been working on sanding out the little areas. Put his little Raby rudder linkage into this morning. And I want to get the rest of this, and what I'm trying to do is, because we're trying to get ready for this big Midgley weekend, I want to get the rest of the ink done, and I've been laying out one line on this panel, one line on this panel. We'll try to finish up the ink lining on this today. Little by little, it's shaping up. And again, the only thing that takes time is just getting some ideas from the books. Something that looks semi-prototypical, and then trying to get, because this wing is not the same shape as that wing, trying to get it, actually fudging is not the right word. Did some little detailing where the trim tabs would be. This, I think, is particularly effective when a line ends at a little kink like that, and that happens on the plane quite a bit. It doesn't all end at square corners. See, most of these lines, things they don't end at square corners. That's one of the things they don't do. I can't figure out exactly where I want to have a line end or begin. The easiest way, same as the fuselage, is to just kind of lay it out looking at the book. Just rough lay it out with some tape. And while I'm doing it, I'll lay out the other panel too, so they're, in the case of the wing, we want the top, the two panels to be relatively symmetrical, but it doesn't have to match the bottom. Now in this case, now I have a reference point for both sides here. Now what I found real handy is, this template here was really handy, and except it's not going to be long enough for this line. So I may have to, this is the part of it that you just, sometimes you need to improvise a little bit, or improvise a lot. I see Peeps is eating electrosets over there. Again, it's that just keep looking at things and trying to make them look like a similar thing, even though it's it's like a cartoon almost, where you're trying to make it look like the person that you're making a cartoon of, but it certainly isn't a photograph. Not like a scale model would be. And again, anytime I do one panel, now I'll go right over, lay out the same line, so I'm constantly working on symmetrical lines. And Mike, this video from Ken Clapson. Look at this GB. This is unbelievable. It took about a project for a nice 90 or something. 90 probably for a 6-cylinder radial or something. So you got the body all planked. Big fillets ready to carve. Ken, we're enjoying your video, and I wish we could come up there and build in that 400-foot shop you have. Anyway, back to this ink line. I have just been laying out one line and using the tape, trying to space it, and again, it's just so repetitive, looking at what might look prototypical. Every time I add a line to it, it starts to look, well, again, the top and the bottom never match on a real plane, so we're not trying for that, but I want it to have that prototypical look. Keep saying that so many times, I'm going to believe it at the end of this day. A lot of times this looks easier than it is, and a lot of times, for some reason, and I don't know what, if the ink just lays down on some days, and I wash my hands constantly and clean them and clean everything with M600, and some days the ink just doesn't want to lay down, and the next day I come down here and the ink is laying down like just perfect. So I don't know that secret yet. We hope somebody will give it to us. But no matter what kind of plane you're doing, the ink lines have to look, I mean, somewhat like an aeroplane. Now this is one of the things I want to show. What I want to show is how I got this. You see, I haven't connected the corner yet. And it's easier to just come almost up to that point. And then when you're all done, it just gets easier, at least for me anyway, to lay up another ruler in there and work toward that imaginary point of the corner. The really nice ink jobs, to me, are the ones that have really nice, neat, square, pointy corners. Now I'm taking a really fine pen and I just put that last little bit in there and draw it out to a point, which in this case, because I'm on camera, didn't take. Important thing here is to vary the thickness of the lines, the spacing of the rivets. It's the same as when we did the fuselage on the previous tape. Keep the bird from eating the pens. He flew away with part of Mike's pen before. I gotta tell you, I've been looking the last couple of days, and Karen watched the video too, with our friend Ken Clapson, and I'm just amazed. I'm amazed that here we are thousands of miles apart. Ken, you got some Air Force, that's all I have to say. That video runs almost 2 full hours. Obviously, we're going to have to pick out some excerpts from it from time to time. The GB's awesome. Just looking at how you have your shop set up is pretty neat. The Pond Racer. And we're looking forward to Don Dixon's video of his shop. He's going to eat something here. I just sense it. But if you keep in mind, the lines have to really be prototypical, at least in my case, in my feeling, they need to vary. And if you try to do them all with one pen and you just play a thing of connect the dots like a winky-dink, it's not going to look like an aeroplane. It might even have a negative impact. I've seen planes that the ink really ruined the plane. Hey, get out of here. God, he's such a pain. Never save a baby bird. You could be in for a lifetime. We looked out on the internet, and these birds live, yeah, sure. They live 7 to 10 years, so it could be for and even longer when they're in a protected environment. We're going to send you to live with Ken Clapson. You'll be up in freezing Alberta. Get out of here. Other projects, and we watch these videos over and over again. It isn't like you just watch them once. Big Tsunami. We've had that on the video. He's got a copy of Joe Adamusco's Stuntress. It's great. See, while we're inking and while we're making rivet heads and everything, just nice to be able to have. I'll just carefully pull this up. And I've got to watch now that I'm not getting too similar in everything. It's got to have some variety. Using these, and again I got these from John Brodak, these Top Flight rivet templates work best with about a number 35 size pen. Any smaller than that, and it kind of scratches the paint. And any wider than that, and they don't look realistic. Right about at a 35 size pen. And you can see it always tells you the size of the pen out on the end. It's always good to hold these down with tape, because what happens with these, if you move this even just a little bit, you can tell. Always good to hold the pen completely straight up and down if possible when doing rivet lines. Always good if you can hot stuff the bird in his cage. Now you may be wondering why we let this bird run around all day when we're doing delicate work like this. I'll tell you, I don't know. Because he knows he has connections in the mob, I think that's the real reason. Anyway, he's coming up on being a year old, and he's still a pain in the ass like he was when he was a baby. Get away. I'm not kidding. Buzz Brodak's going to get you. Buzz Brodak's going to serve you at the Brodak meet for make a sandwich out of you. Actually, you know what? I get used to having him here. I get used to him, and get out. You're going to Ken Clapson's house. Now we just let that dry a split second before I pick it up and make a mess out of it. And that can make some nice effects, and I guess a lot of this is just freelance stuff. And again, I say over and over again, the way I've been doing this is back and forth. Back and forth is the only realistic way to really get it done. Riveting lines that don't end at a corner. It seems like most of the real prototype things end at different, then it's probably because they try to avoid a stress riser in some way. These kind of little things seem to add a little interest. And we're going to plan on spending another better part of a day on this. We actually have spent probably a little more than a week doing ink lines, in and out of working on Mike's project. thing that seems kind of prototypical is a thick line right by a thin line. And I've tried to simulate that. We're doing a thick line, an 80 right next to a 35. Things I think looks kind of neat is when the black rivets are on white and then they go over to the black and they turn the white rivet heads. Again, the white seems to work best at about an 8/0 size. Somewhere around 8/0 anyway. You get a reasonably nice size rivet, and you usually have to go over it a few times. But it's these little illusionary things, I guess like any piece of artwork, you're trying to trick your eye. Boy, you in some mood today. Get out of here. And when you pull that up, laid out my AMA number. The objective here is to make it as inconspicuous as possible and yet still be legal. So I used the thinnest pen I had, ink in an 035, traced out with one of these store-bought things. And what I'm doing, I'm just putting dots inside of it to give it make it a little bit unusual or different. But I don't want to make it black because it's going to stand out too much. I just don't want to have it that it's a dominant part of when you look at the plane. I'd like it to kind of fade away, in fact. I'm going to put on here just a few minutes of this footage we got from Ken Clapson. It is really great, and Ken, I really appreciate it. But it shows, this is the part I think is the most significant, the latest footage that he has of his pond racer showing the engine pods, the glass cowls. I think you'll find a couple of minutes of this interesting. Ken Clapson from Alberta, Canada. He builds hothouses, hydroponic hothouses for a living. Interesting footage.
I took off, or pulled off the plug. I had a little bit of a problem with epoxies and whatnot, but got that resolved, and just playing around now, how many layers this and how many layers of that, and et cetera, that I need to put on. What I decided to do is build a great big cowl that would actually basically hide the engine as well as the fuel tank as well. Just finished mixing up a little epoxy up my nose there and blending it in, but the pods are starting to take shape. This is the first coat of silver, but I can see it needs a little bit of attention yet. I'm not going to get away with even two, I don't think. I can see there's a few little nicks and imperfections and whatnot, but it's coming along. The second one is in worse shape. I have maybe this evening I'll start playing with just feathering in the nose of the spinner a little bit better. I was kind of disappointed. Spinners had to basically stay with these bloody plastic ones, but instead of the aluminum ones. But I guess what I'm going to have to do is hunt down a 10mm die and whatnot, so I can pick up some aluminum spinners. I'm not real happy with the plastic ones, but I guess they'll do for the time being there. But they're taking shape. Actually, I'm planning to... Oops, I should have taped everything together here. I've actually planned on having another, almost like a cheek cowl here. Molded it up. I haven't pulled it off the mold yet, but the reason I did that, it'll allow me to hide my crankcase vent and possibly put my uniflow vent in there at the same time, but I just figured it would give the nose a little bit more realistic look to it, because it is pretty plain just from the side there, and but that's the fuse. The wing, I sanded her all down, took her right back to, what did I read here? Started off at 380 grams. I sanded the silver right down to 385 grams, and reshot it again on the weekend. Like it just needed a little more attention and that. So this weekend, probably sanding silver again off the wing. I've been just trying everything I can just to keep everything as light as I can. It just seems like a gram here and a gram there. It all adds up. So. That's today's progress report, and actually what I'm going to do here, since I've figured out how to, or part of the problem was my daughter had borrowed the patch cords months ago for this camera to record onto the VCR, and I could not find them, and so I went down to the Sony store and said, well, can I get a set? And it was the old thing, well, we've got to order them in, and kept forgetting about it, and so this tape, I think, here is probably about 2 months worth of stuff on and off, but Emily finally cleaned up her room enough to find my patch cords, so this evening what I will do, I'm going to put this onto a tape and ship it off to you there, and we'll just keep plugging along. Got the fuel tanks, what I'm going to run all tubes forward, all tubes forward. They're just John Brodak tanks. Maybe I'll try some of your fiberglass if and when you get around to it there, but just I'm going to go 3 ounce. I know Bob figured I could probably get away with 2.5, but I'll put the 3s in, and if the 3s are too much, then I'll go back down. I've got tons of room to, actually I can sneak in 4 ounce tanks, to tell you the truth there, but if I can get this off while holding this bloody camera, and yeah, there we go. Everything's loose. So I've got lots of room to put in a larger tank if required. So what I might do, and I haven't decided on it, I might actually, this is just going along for the ride here, but I think I might take that engine barrel out. I took the top out just to elevate the tank. Also what I did with the Saito 30 here, and we'll just see if we can use this fancy button here. What I'm trying to do here is as you can see here, I've swung the carb over more to get the carb on the center line on that throttle. Basically what I was planning to do, I've flipped the throttle around here, so I was just planning on having an RC type ball joint here going out through the canopy and actually having a real nut on it that I can actually thread in and out to control the engine speed. I don't know if that's going to work. Maybe it's going to be the old runner wide open and the spring trick. Oops, it won't focus on that, but that's what the 30 looks like. I think it looks pretty cool. From the front there, look really neat. But I did the engine cowl. That's when I figured, geez, you know, oops, that it looks pretty ugly on the thumb side of the fuse. That's where I decided, well, why not put a little cheap cowl on there, so then I can hide my vent. And the crankcase vent. And also what I decided, I made it fairly large. Actually this evening I'll take the first plug off, but I figured, well, I can even drill a nice fairly substantial hole right at the carburetor and use some of this SST technology to see if it get the engine to run any better. But it's all for looks. But
I'm really, and Ken, believe me, the fiberglass cowls are going to add some fun to your modeling in the future. Glad to see so many people using fiberglass cowls now, and we plan on doing more of it in the future. While I was watching Ken's video for about the 12th time, and there's a lot of stuff on there, I believe it's almost a 2-hour video, and thank you very much. I thought these were real effective. The white rivet heads around black ink lines kind of dressed up and I'm trying to pan this because we're about done with this. We want to put a few letrosets on here, and we're then pretty much done with the inking, or most of it. And this I was real happy the way that doesn't jump out at you. It doesn't take away from the scale aspects of the model. Now I couldn't find in the documentation I had if this was prototypical, but almost all of the British warbirds at some part around here on the wing, and usually it's where the landing gear, where the wheels retract in, it would be soft, so they have a thing that says not to be walked on, and I have that on all the Spitfires. So I'm gonna put it on even if it's not prototypical, but it's one of the things that I kind of think is cool, and I guess that's reason enough to do it. Now the trick is when we go over this with the first coat of clear, to put the first coat of clear over the letrosets and the ink lines very dry. We're going to mix up some clear that has about maybe 30% thinner, get the pressure way down, maybe as low as we can anyway. And we're supposed to have a couple of days of rain, so if we do, you ever do this and you forget what letter you're going to put? What do you mean, do you ever? It always happens. The wonders of old age. Anyway, it's just something that I like. It's a detail that I like to add, and it kind of, instead of having the usual thing that what you see is a lot of, the traditional stunt planes, and they have no step, no step, no step, and then you have one that says not to be walked on. Well, guess which one stands out in the crowd? Make a point that may be valid, I don't know. Mike and I were up at the art supply store, and I was determined to buy up some new letrosets for this plane, and you know what? Last year this time they only had certain sizes, and none of them were the sizes I wanted. This year they don't have any. So it looks like, the genius that I am for saving all this stuff, it looks like we will have a couple more years supply, or maybe more, or until somebody invents something a little bit better. And it is possible, by the way, to make your own letroset sheet, which we have considered doing with all the little nose steps and everything. Again, that may or may not be coming. Anyway, I think that's one of the nicer little details on a plane. Now, just as an example of one of the things that may be a good trick that you can figure out on this, I want to repeat this in a mirror image on the other side of the wing. Well, if I try to start here and work my way to the end, it's either going to be, believe me, something is wrong. So what I'm going to do is just do it backwards, starting in this corner and working this way. And by doing it that way, it's, you're going to wind up at the same spot, and it'll have kind of a symmetrical look.
That one. You will bring to heat of the
The thing that appears on almost all of the British planes is the lettering walkway forward. So a couple of the tricks that'll help with laying out letrosets. You see these little, maybe I didn't even put this on a video in the past. I always try to work off a line. Now if I can't work off a line, I lay out a piece of tape. If I wanted that to be out here, I have it on a piece of tape. But to lay it out, again, counting ahead of time to see if you have enough letters, that's always especially in the world of that you can't buy these anymore. By the way, one of the things might be good is if you're in an art supply store and you happen to see, the thing is the brand Letroset is a lot less prone to melt than some of the office supply stores. They make these things, you get dope even near them, they just melt. So we're hoping that in the future maybe we can inspire Elliot Scott to come up with he's got the computer skills that we need. Now I try to lay out to see how So it's halfway centered. It doesn't have to really be centered. I can work off that edge. Anyway, I lay out the first letter where I think it should be, referencing off of that line. And now the trick is, tremendous trick we have, is to space them out equally. And the spacing, if it's off even a little bit, the thickness of a piece of paper, it can be a problem. In fact, see now a letter didn't release the way I want. I always have a piece of tape right on my shirt. Just take that right off. And the reason it's not releasing is I'm trying not to press down as hard as I don't want to put dents in this. So all I do is get a Q-tip now. Get a little Sickens M600. I don't want to get near the ink line. This just helps get a better bond. One of the worst things you can do to a plane, and several people have, myself included of course, taken a perfectly good plane and turned it, it looked like Elmo Fudd shot it with a shotgun when it was done. And I think people like Mike Kajeski, they have a heavy hand at this too. Mike's kind of impressed. I don't let him near the letrosets. Okay, so we're trying very carefully. Line that up. I would rather pull up and throw away a whole bunch of letters than wind up with that look that the plane's been shot by a shotgun. Now see here, we're going to have a problem because this whole thing, somebody probably put their finger on here. So what I'm going to do is go look and see if I have another sheet. If you get a whole row that isn't releasing, well, you know, these are maybe 10 years old too. These possibly are out of code or something. But I may have another sheet. If I don't, I'm really going to have to be careful because now I'm down to where I don't have a spare W. Now it looks like we've lucked out, which probably means we haven't really lucked out. We're just fooling each other. Anyway, having all these scraps, we're really getting down to the bottom of the ninth here. Anyway, we'll just continue this on. We have to go through several sheets, which, what happens, it's almost like that show where you got to give up the vowels and the consonants, and what's the name of that show, Mike? You watch dumb TV, don't you? Well, oh, give me an F, give me a G, oh, there's Vanna, oh. Oh, I don't think so. That's why real men work on their models. They don't watch those shows. That's how I know the girl's name is Vanna, as I never watched the show. You can tell I don't lie. Anyway, we're going to do the rest of this letroset, try to polish this up. Hope that we don't run out of letters. But again, don't count your chickens. The little things for spacing them out equally, and boy, if they're off a little bit, it's terrible. Is I always try to pick the last letter. See, I wouldn't want to do the last one or the first one. What I want to do is pick one so I can put the one right next to it, right over the other letter. And I remember Bobby Hunt, and I tell you, much as I love Bobby Hunt, he hurt my feelings one day. We were doing a photo shoot of the big sweeper up at Flying Models, and he looked it over, and of course he was, well, I don't know if impressed is the right word, but he said, Wendy, it's a nice plane, but your letrosets are crooked. Can you imagine? My letrosets were, they were crooked. Now, we got two pressed on here. Imagine this, we can't even get the right amount on. Anyway, Bobby, I still remember how you hurt my feelings. It was a very insulting thing to say. But every time I look at that old sweeper in George's cellar, I see it. Voila, he was perfectly right. And every time he builds a model, the first thing when I look at it, I try to see if the letrosets are crooked so I can hurt his feelings. The problem is he's better than I am at letrosets. Now that one didn't come out straight for whatever reason. And I just wanted to give about a 5-minute thing of how this, when you see letrosets on a plane, it isn't like typing on a computer. It's very frustrating for me anyway, because we're using old material, And we're using stuff that from time to time can make you a little bit crazy. And Mike knows I never lose my temper. I have almost thrown this plane out across the wall at times. Anyway, and add to that the fact that the bird is here, making us crazy, and that public service is digging up the whole street because the gas line to my house is leaking. Okay, bird, out of here.
Don't shit on my head. It takes you out. Here's a nightmare.
Step on this is going to be to put the whole plane together and then look for areas where it may not be exactly what we were looking for. Finished up the electrosets here. Just doing, getting a little idea because I don't know when this is all done exactly how, when the plane is all in one piece, if I'm going to want to put more, less, or whatever on it. So, as I put the plane in one piece, I can see I need some detailing or something down at the bottom here. What I'm going to try to do is using the top flight template, try to get some lines in there just so it ties it all together. I try doing a little bit of accent shading. Just see if I like this. Using a piece of sandpaper and an airbrush with very low pressure. This has to be very subtle to be effective, very subtle.
Whenever you're away, I can't sleep nights and suffer all the day.
Now what I'm going to try to do is just some experimental parts. Here's another one. The idea is to get it that it's very subtle and yet that you can still see it. And I figure I'd do the bottom of the plane because I'm a coward until I see if I'm going to like that. Oh yeah. And it takes very little. And what I did, I thinned out the dope down to about 3 parts of thinner to 1 part of paint, so it would be very, very subtle. Another way to do it would be to put some just clear in black so it doesn't jump out at you. I had to figure out here, and I spoke to Al Raby, and he's the one that kind of convinced me I should do this. And he says, well, what the hell, if he did it, it must be cool, and I'll do it too. The sandpaper seems like a good way to do it. Al said he was using cardboard. And another good trick is not to, now I got Mike here, so this will be easy, because I have skilled, qualified help. This is a good trick from old painting motorcycle days, is just start the airbrush painting on here, and then just work your way out onto the part. It takes very little to make an accent. Oh wow, that really does look three-dimensional. That look cool, Mike?
Very nice.
Very nice. That means he doesn't like it. Maybe that this is more effective on a plane that really would have this kind of weathering camo, or whatever you want to call it. Start the paint on the sandpaper and work your way up. And maybe on some of those colors what we'll have to do, now see that didn't, because we're on a dark color, maybe we have to go a lot darker on dark colors, the way you learn this stuff. Yeah, that's the deal. If it's on a dark color, you have to go a lot darker. Hey, Mike, if you can hold this, come on this side. Get your hands clean?
Yeah.
If you can hold this, let's see if we can do this. We gotta invent something here. You need qualified help. what I want to do is just have this, let's put it on the end of the table. I want to just come by and shoot this angle. Now I'll hold the sandpaper. This probably isn't going to do a lot of good because, hold on a second. If I can just get this on 1 or 2 shots, I think the rest will be then you just go through and do the whole plane. Now I'm not going right to the end of the line. Okay. See, on the darker colors you got to do it darker. It doesn't have to be even. It can be kind of random. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, when that has clear on it, that's going to look pretty good. Hold it right back up on the spot. I'll give it another shot. Okay. Because this one is dark here and light. Just to put your thumb on that. We want to cover the ink line. No, down just a little bit, Mike. Okay. It's just subtle shading. It's not supposed to jump out at you. Dark colors, you got to put a lot more on there. Okay. We'll figure it out. We're smart guys.
Just little old me.
I think two parts you want to get just a little bit. Take it up just easily. Whoa! I thought you were holding it. Nice guy. Yeah, okay. Now let me get one down here. Hold that up there. We can just try this. Up, further.
Okay.
A little further. Okay, that's it. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. So I want all the edges to go back as if the stains were blowing backwards. All the dark stains in the back. The trim tabs first, Mike. See if you can hold that up. We'll just get a dot on the trim tab. Okay, let's stand it up if you possibly can. Okay, that's good. Okay, pull it back. Okay, that's good. That right with the ink line. Just over the edge. Okay, that's good. I think the whole key here is to see just how subtle you can make it. Okay, now I want to do these lines here. I want all the lines, the dark side, to be in the back. We'll do this line first. Let's do this one first.
Let's go here now. Hit on here.
Okay, we'll take the elevators off. Line it up with the ink line. Down on my side, just a tad, okay. Okay. This can be very subtle here. This doesn't have to jump out at your head. That's good. Okay, let's do the other side. Same thing. Let's use this edge. This edge is cleaner. Is it long enough? No. Okay, turn it that way because that one edge is getting beat up already. We're going to just use a new piece of paper about every 10 of these that we do, I think. Got to go further up, your side. Just a couple of thousandths. I don't have it up there. Okay. Okay. Okay, now we got to do the front lines. The more subtle it is, the better. Either line up on the front edge. Okay, just move it over to this piece. Same thing, get an alignment. Okay, that looks good. Okay, that's nice. That one's nice. That's the best one yet. Now let's do the side lines. significant difference to be doing the lighter color blue. But this is the William Nomura airbrush, and this is the real killer airbrush, boy. Okay, let's do the other side. And that really does make it stand out, I have to say. I'm surprised. I didn't think it would be that dramatic. I think we got to get a new piece of sandpaper after this part. That edge fills up with little paint dust or something. Yeah, it really does look good. Okay, let's do the... No, we want to do them that those edges are in the back. All the stains would wash back. You know, on a real plane, stains from the aluminum, from flying in the rain and stuff, they tend to wash back. So let's do these edges. The Peeps is really loving this. Let me get this just up just a little bit. I can't get my hand up. Okay. Okay. Okay, now just lay that in down here. So we got to get a new... Once this builds up, let me show this on the video. Once this builds up with paint, you have to get a new piece of sandpaper. What the hell are we going to run out of sandpaper? We got 8,000 sheets over there. And what we did is I did all the little doors. I'm doing it as if all the stains would either be coming out from the body or back. All the dark stains. We may do some light ones too. Quiet, Peeps. Oh, geez, he's going nuts. Quiet! I'm going to airbrush him. Come on, Peeps. Okay, so we'll get like 10 lines and then we'll change sandpaper. Got it over there. See, one edge of the paper is cut rough. See how nice and smooth this is? And the other edge is cut rough. You can do this with Mylar too, I think. Al Raby said he did it with just a piece of cardboard, so... Okay. Oh, I like that. That's so... Okay, now we want to do the one on ends. Turn it on end. This is the first time we're doing this. I'm trying to be even more subtle than I would be. The next time I do this and see how it looks with the clear, maybe I can get more aggressive. But even so, even if we just do this, this really does set it apart. Hey! Yeah. Get out of here. And the Iwata airbrush is just, wow. This is an Iwata Eclipse HP BSC. You can pull up Lou Nomura, who's in Tampa, and order up a nice airbrush. This is a good one. Okay, next layer. This looks much better on the camo side than on the blue side. This really makes it look like it's been out to war a while. Okay, we'll come back and do the boxes. I don't want to have the boxes. I don't want to scratch it because the sandpaper side is going to scratch it. Okay. Now I'm going to be making up a carbon fiber backplate for Al's Mustang, and I'm going to send him a copy. Al, the other day when you talked to me into this. You added another 2 days to my my production of this plane. So I think it's going to be worth it. Okay. Well, let's do the little boxes. We want to do always from the middle of the fuselage out, not the other way around. Let's do, on short lines, let's do the clean side.
But ask any lover, and you soon discover the heartaches that romance
Okay, and drop the
can bring.
Okay. Same thing on that.
When you're alone.
Okay, drop it down. This definitely is a two-man job. Now blowing the sandpaper down, see what's happening now. The sandpaper wants to come up in the neck. It's easier if you have another guy, actually, if you hold the sandpaper. Actually, this would be better with that Mylar stuff. We've got this working. Let's Let's quit while we're ahead. Okay, this side done? This side's done? You sure? Last time you said that we had a big gap in some. Okay. Lighter colors, you really have to be a lot more careful not to overdo it. Okay. We want to do this. Okay, just down here. Just head up over there. This will look cool on Brodak on your scale ship. Next time you do a real scale ship, this would be cool. A little tip. Okay, we want to do the line first. Let's turn it this way. Yeah. No, we want the fading in the back. That way. Or we'll use the long end of the sandpaper. This dries instantly. You don't have to worry about, 2 minutes to dry. Just make sure it gets up over the line. Okay, the two edges. From the inside of the fuselage out. No, turn it around. Pull it up on edge, that's it. Now this we gotta do in two pieces. Now move it down. You gotta get it right up. That looks real good with it, where the incline doubles up. That looks good. So here, for the first time doing this, I think it's relatively successful. Okay. First, doesn't matter, do this. Get that line up there, and then we'll get a new piece of sandpaper. This is getting ginchy again. Okay, hold that. Back down. Front part first. See how quick that sandpaper builds up, that edge? We want them... Okay, back here. I think it looks exceptionally good on the camo side of the plane. The other side, okay, I gotta do the trim tab last. Turn it backwards, yeah, now we gotta do the trim tab and then this edge here. Right, let's get a clean edge. Let's get a new piece of sandpaper. You'd think guys like us on Poverty Row here, we go without eating lunch for a year so we can afford sandpaper. Okay. See, on a little part like the trim tab, it looks better if it's a little darker than on the other stuff. Oh, we gotta go back up. Okay. Somehow this doesn't look like a new piece of sandpaper. There's those gas and electric guys digging up my lawn out there. That's the noise you hear in the background. You hear, sounds like dynamite going off. Putting in a new gas line in the house. Bottom ones, I'll do the rudder first. On top, the bottom ones, we want the darker side on the bottom. Okay, that's how it would be in the real world. When we know our stuff. One dye job here and we're blondes. Okay. Okay, you gotta check each one here. See, this one's gotta be kind of a half moony thing. Okay, go down one. Like a half moon thing. Jesus, what are they doing out there? I bet they're jackhammering my house. Now your end's gotta come down. Peeps is eating things, they're jackhammering. Jeez. There goes your pens, Mike. Oh, there goes 2 pens. Okay, move it out. Okay, just keep going down now. Wait, I gotta get my set. There you go. I'm trying to make the equivalent of a half moon here to make it 3-dimensional. Okay, now where it's dark, we gotta make it darker. Okay, come down one. This is now, it's in a, let this come to me so we're not, okay, this can be really dark here because we're into the dark camo. Okay, next one. This can be very subtle. Okay, one more.
He has a gay appeal.
Okay, back down, one more.
Sounds like they're using dynamite out there.
You know, outside there'd be no lawn. Okay. So we got this much done anyway. One of the things that we learned so far, that the sandpaper lasts about 10 shots, and then you get a rough edge on it. And we always want to have the dark side on the bottom. So in other words, up here, can you put a thumb on that? So we keep it consistent. Okay, take that up. Oh yeah, I like that. Al, you're okay. I don't care what Bill Rutherford says about you. Now you know what I can do here is I can fog the edge of the cowling. I'll take the cowling off. And these things I want to do, I want to leave the hatch, the hatch is the, right up on there. You got that? Okay, take it back. Okay. Hold it this way. Last thing I'll do is take the cowling off and do it that way. Okay. Okay. Good. Now we want to do the back piece. Back to you. Thickness of the line. Okay, that's it. You gotta say to you, what airbrush is, I've used other airbrushes and been real unhappy with them. This is a jewel. Okay, now this line here I want to do, let's do the back first. Let's go up to here. Okay. You got it on, okay? Okay, just let it go up. Let's go to the front. Get it right on the line. Okay. I want to go down to this line. Okay. Now this little line, we just do the slightest, because it's a thin line. The thin lines will do just like that. That's all. Thin lines will just dust on. Now that means that the top edge of the cowl has to be dusted. What else? Turn that over to me so I can see. What else? Hold this just like so for 1 second. Okay. That'll take care of that. We have step 1 of our airbrushing episode done. And Mike likes it. He's going to do it on his plane too. Anyway, what we did, we're going to glass the nose of this today. It's pretty much ready. We put some paper towel so that this can sit out over the table like a diving board. Mike's doing a little dusting, sanding, and then we're going to take the vacuum cleaner with a little brush and vacuum all the dust out of there so that the glass lays down a little bit nicer even than it normally would. They're doing to my God,
They did to my yard. I can't believe what a mess they made. Holy mackerel.
Anyway, you thought things were exploding out there? No, it's these crazy guys with the gas thing. Oh, they got a fire extinguisher too. Get as much of that dust off as you can, because all that stuff winds up in the fiberglass. You can't believe what these gas and electric guys are doing to us. Okay, now you can see he's not getting married. That's not his wedding dress. That's...
Keep the mosquitoes off me when I'm sleeping.
Okay, this is 1/2 ounce cloth, and what we're going to do, just take the black ink marker and put a little dot all along there. Drape it down. Here. You know the little deal. Make it just a tad, just before it gets to the fillet. Make a little... Then from that point on, there you go. From that point on, just cut straight down. We're done with that. Get the other side. And you can let it overlap in every other dimension. That's the only dimensions we got to cut accurately. Okay, you can leave 1 inch or so off. Oversize. Okay, let's mix up the resin. Now we use the SIG, that one tube is twice the size of the other. I don't know where you got it here. Is this a good one? Where's the fresh one? We got ones that are 8 years old, 6 years old, 5 years old, out of code, way out of code, but no new glue. Yeah, that's a new one, okay. 2 to 1. The invention here is he's got these little ashtrays that he steals from a bar where he hangs out. He starts talking to the bartender and all of a sudden we have 2,000 ashtrays here. Okay. This resin is not real critical, so... What were you going to do, make a boat here? That's enough for 6 planes.
Is it? I would run
Good for Brodak's business, not for us though. Okay, there you go. You won't run short. We use the easy method. So it ensures that anybody can fiberglass a nose, that there's nothing difficult to do. What we're going to do is with the cloth laid right on here, what most people have a problem with is they paint the nose and then try to lay the cloth in, and of course it turns to fly paper. We're going to leave the cloth right in position because the epoxy goes right through there. I'm going to have him paint a stripe right across the nose. You done this already, didn't you?
Yeah.
Asking him for. And then work, just keep working it down and away from that center joint. You got it right. Now work from there. Just start go working down one side, down the other side. You just got to paint it on for now. When we get the trowel in the heat, don't worry about the hairs. The hairs will come right off. Start at the middle and work your way down. You got plenty of time with this resin. You got 45 minutes even sometimes. Until you heat it. Once you heat it, then it starts to get, that you got to get going. That's going right on, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just work, see the band in the middle holds it in place, and now you can kind of work out the wrinkles little by little. Try not to get it right up on the fillet. Get it close to the fillet, but not right on top of it, if possible. If not, well, I'll have to call in the Marines and save you, that's all. Okay, there you go. Don't worry about the hairs. These cheesy brushes, they're not going to... Use a hair dryer on a low setting. Just get a little bit, and you can see how Mike's drawing it out. Okay, I'll hold it for you so you can... On his stolen ashtrays. Anybody would like to contribute to this homeless man's habit of stealing ashtrays from the bars? There you go. That was to show that you're getting it drawn right out. Always best to start from that midpoint. Just push it now. What we're going to do is we're going to push it right down into the fillet, and then at the very end take a razor and cut it, and then wipe that up with alcohol. Right now just keep drawing it down. This thing is having this system to hold the plane. When that plane is rocking and rolling or moving around, it's a real pain. Wound up on the fillet, we want to get rid of, here's your knife. Just get the last little bit. Just leave yourself a 1/16 after the fillet. Try not to cut right into the balsa wood. If you miss it, you go back and cut it again. And just get the rest of it out of there. Coming right off?
Yep.
Okay, then get the little rag with the alcohol. Get this done before those Conan the Gas Man Destroyer comes back in and wrecks the rest of my cellar. Bet those guys make good money too.
Kidding.
Okay. A bunch of butchers making more money than we are. Yeah, but then so is everybody. Okay, that's the deal. Now start about 1 inch in front of where the joint is and wipe it back so you don't have where it all ends in one spot. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then we'll flip it and you wrap the bottom. Just start an inch up onto it and let the hairs, wherever they are, we'll sand them right off. And we are closing in on having this guy a couple of days, well, at least next week. We're expecting rain the next couple of days, but we'll have it all ready for the big paint operation. Take your brush or the trowel and just that last little bit. Low heat setting. Carry it right around. There we go. The best thing is if you have a heating vent in the house, because if we had a gas line in the house, we would have heat instead of freezing here. And just work from this side and pull that epoxy right up there. And then where it ends, just wipe it a little bit with the alcohol and you're all set, baby. We're going to call you Glass Man. Glass Man. Coming to a theater near you, Glass Man. You need a little more epoxy there?
Yeah.
With that gas man, I have to stay in a cage while he's ripping up your whole property.
Right, peeps?
Here's the thing, peeps. When he comes in, let's go for him. He must have a wallet. We can get his credit cards. We can turn that gas meter back. See what's cool?
Mike and I are trying to figure out, while the guy's out having lunch, how we can turn our gas meter backwards. Turn a vacuum cleaner on it or something. I don't know. This guy's a butcher's, I'm telling you. Look at this. I can look right outside. Unbelievable. Alright, now you can just trim the edges there, Bonzo, and you're all set. You're a man among men. Okay, now we can do a high setting, plenty of heat, and just look how much more that epoxy came out, huh, Mike? Just keep stretching it from the middle out. By heating the epoxy, you get it thinner and it makes a better penetration. Always keep in mind there's another way to do this. You can thin the epoxy with alcohol or you can use finishing resin. Both of them have downsides. First off, any alcohol you ever add to epoxy weakens the epoxy by the exact percentage of alcohol that you add. So that's something to keep in mind. It's not as strong, it may be prettier. And that finishing resin is basically a resin that has no strength. It's made for cosmetic reasons to sand and break off easily. So this is the best. To me, it may be a little more difficult, but you get the most for a couple of grams you add to the plane. And I've weighed this at times. Usually this adds from 3 to 5 grams to the plane before sanding, and after sanding, maybe you get rid of a gram or 2. By doing this till the epoxy really kicks,
That's good.
look how much you got off. That's a beauty. Now just wipe the edges with alcohol again, and you're ready. And then go kill a gas man. Now we got a little time left tonight, maybe a half hour or so. But because this plane has a raby rudder on this side, we can't really put a real fillet. We're going to put a sheet, like a half a fillet on here. But the other side, we want a full fillet, just like it was an ordinary assembly. Just make a completely, no, don't put the front. Whoops. Yeah, I know. As soon as the camera's running, you drop everything. Okay. You want this to be flat up against the front. So make it oversized. You know, this is going to go up a flat piece. Okay. Now give yourself a good amount extra. Okay. So first step is cut that piece of wood out, and it's oversized in every dimension now. Cut that out first. You always want to leave the block plenty oversized and then work it in just like, I guess similar to fitting a piece of sheetrock. You have the side profile. Just trace that in. Leave the line on so it's plenty big. Take that out. Now you can cut that side. Now you got the two. Leave plenty extra. Keep in mind, you want it to be flat with the top of the tail. And the bottom, of course. So get that part of the joint first. And if you cut it a little too thin, just go make another block. You got it plenty big, so you can even put it in place, take it out, sand it, put it back, sand it, until you get the fit just right.
Correct.
Using a couple of pieces of plywood here, just to hold that, so we have a nice regular gap. Okay, you can take that out. We tacked it in place. And notice that it's oversized even in the length. Now we can just put a little kerf in there. Okay, now you can get a brand new blade and just cut that away, and the last little bit we can get out with a Dremel. One little kerf at a time, and leave the line on. And the last little bit we'll do with a piece of sandpaper. And the last little bit you can do with, a little round piece with some sandpaper on it. Okay, getting that blended in nice? Okay, then when you're all done, put a bead of thin CA around the whole thing. And always, it's a good idea to put double tissue over that joint. That's one of the places they always seem to crack as time goes by. Okay, as soon as you have that side done, then we'll lay out the other side, but all you need is a sheet on the other side. You got a glue seam in there?
Yep.
Now you got to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. The rudder linkage is just a piece of 64 plywood so that we can, that little ball in, no, it's fine. Okay, you get just enough clearance there. Okay, get that clearance set so it matches the other side, and then put that curve in the back, and you're all set. That's one little pain in that job out of the way too tonight.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Let me see from this side. So you just check from the back there, they're level, and then try to get the same curve on that side. Now you got to work that edge in. Get that whole thing a nice smooth joint there. So when we put dope and tissue and everything on it, you won't have any gaps to fill. And flip it over, we'll do the same thing on the bottom, and we're done for tonight. That finishes one fine day. Just another day in the life of the gas man. You gotta stop feeding peeps with parts of your head.
Yeah, he makes me crazy.
Alright, just put another seam in there. And just rub it with a Q-tip. You get that joint, harden that joint up, because you don't want that to be flimsy. You still need room for that little linkage to go out the back. See, while you're doing this now, you could run the whole seam front to back when you sand it. Just work that whole fillet area in at the same time. And that pointy thing, that rubber thing that comes to a point, that would be handy to have for this too. That rubber poly rod. Now today we're in the middle of what amounts to be, what would you say, a hurricane is a safe way to describe today?
It's raining.
It's raining. And I was real happy what we did at the end of yesterday. I had Mike's wonderful assistance. See, we airbrushed white on the top and black on the bottom. It gives it kind of a three-dimensional look, which I thought was really nice. The little white rivet heads seem to have added a nice little dimension. I did a little more shading down here on the bottom of it, where the trim tabs normally would be. Finished up the cowl, all the edges of the cowl. But what I really like is the way the wing came out. The wing, the overall look of the wing. We put a little bit of white where the black is and black where the white is. Anyway, what I'm going to do as the last step here, final step of this project, before we start putting clear on, is I want to put the whole plane together and see if there are any spots that look conspicuously absent. Anything needs an extra little blend or an ink line or a fudge bar or whatever. One of the things we forgot, see, when you put the whole plane together, I forgot to go back over that edge, because that is one of the lines that would have a black edge back. And if you're doing this type of thing, it's got to kind of coordinate. So we need to just go all around that line to make that at least look believable. And then we don't know if we do the cockpit is going to be that way too. Also, I don't know if I should put, it looks like this needs something in here, because it just isn't busy enough relative to the rest of the plane. When those gas men were here last night, they were eyeballing up your plane, Mike. They were thinking, we have a new gas line. Anyway, now this is a part of it that to me takes a lot more time than you think it normally would, is I like to go while the plane is in one piece like this. And I like to look around for areas that, and again, I've found one on the bottom of the fuselage. I need to do something there. But I need to look over all of the ink lining and all of the detailing and things that I think maybe I could make a little improvement to, or a change, or do I like it? Don't I like it? The navigation lights look like what I had envisioned. Because until I seal this with clear, and there's no way we're going to do anything with clear today, thanks to Mr. Weatherman. Uncle Weatherby's not cooperating. This area up around here, I think, is just about busy enough. Out here, this kind of looked the way I envisioned. Back here, all of these parts, there's a lot more of the plane, the little fillets. The rudder, Mike is in love with the rudder. And I thought of a thing we could do in the future is make a foam wing or a foam tail and just ink on the ribs. And I've already done that on I have a couple of planes that have that, but I didn't put the shading. Black on one side, white on the other side, as Mike knocks his plane on the floor. But this is the time. I want to look at the model for an hour, have a cup of coffee. Karen came down and she was really impressed with this. And I thought that this lettering, the numbering would be, I didn't know if I was going to like that, but always the next day when I look at it, I have to make a decision. I love, a couple of the things I really love is how the white rivets look. That looks real nice. I like how the nose arc kind of fit in. It kind of shortens up the nose to some degree. I wasn't sure I was going to like the rudder. The rudder is a little smaller than it really should be for a scale look, but I'm sure from a competition point of view, it'll be a lot better in the weather veining department. So I'm going to basically spend the next part of the day looking around for little things to add. I may darken up where the exhaust stains are. Just have to, this is kind of a do it by eyeball thing. Now what's real handy is I have Mike here, so if I decide to change anything, I ask for his opinion, and whatever he says, I do the opposite. Anyway. The final details here, the hinges on the ailerons, even though they're not totally scale. And I guess after looking at it, we darkened up the back, did some more work on the bottom, did some more inking up there. I think that's pretty much, we're just going to wait now, and we're going to wait patiently for a day when we can spray clear, and it sure isn't going to be today. the Typhoon off the table. Mike is totally taken over. We're ready to sand the nose. And once this dries up, you can trim all these edges and these are, watch you don't get a splinter on that too. We wrap that cloth around there. Mike didn't like the fillet the way it was, so I'll show everybody how you engineered this up. That's kind of cute, that it has an edge and it has a little spot to get in there. He recarved it from a block. And he basically said, Wendy, you don't know anything about stunt. You should go back to school. All right, it comes right off. This is how he did it. Good. We always encourage our students to be creative.
Yes.
Watch him hit the ceiling. Ah! You clums. Okay, let me see the bottom. All right, so you gotta sand that in there. Get a little dowel. Get that smooth. Smooth that out. Yeah, that's nice. You got this nice. Okay, that should be ready. Now let's turn it around and sand the nose. That should be ready after sitting up by the heat for a whole day.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that gas man really wanted to take that home. He liked your plane better than mine.
Yeah, sure he did.
That does look pretty good, Mike. Now, he made it like a little thing of a pistachio shell because the Ray Brother, the ball, he's got so much travel in these controls, which I don't think you really need, but I wouldn't want to have the ball link hit there, that's for sure. You got the whole back sanded out now?
No, I got more time.
Oh, you got more time?
I figured we'd sand the fiberglass.
Yeah, get the fiberglass, let's get that started, that's for sure. Get little sanding block is the one I like. And that rubber one for getting down into the fillets here?
Okay.
The rubber one that's about a 1/4 inch diameter is good. I think this is going to be a sharp looking plane. I like the profile of it. Little Midgley gets here. Midgley's going to see this, he's going to be jealous. As I'm going through the mail, we got a really nice set of photos from Warren Walker here. I guess it's not nice that he crashed the plane, but anyway, he's been out flying, burning up the sky, and it looks a lot like he tore the wing off right at the fuselage here. But as with all bad news, let me see, clean up and re-glue. Going to read his captions exactly. And I'll read his note. He says, Wendy, you don't know anything about repairing. If anybody has a problem, send the plane to me, and Warren will fix it for free. Not really. Anyway, he did. And this is what makes it all worthwhile, is when you see this, and you get to the very end, it looks like he had to do a special thing on a bell crank repair here. Anyway, I'm trying to fudge this through. I see he used the little tabs for the wheel pants. Center ribs back in, re-glued. And he says, don't worry, Wendy, anything you ever need repaired. By the way, Warren has been sending us these great jars of pickles. We're now addicted to them. We need to go to pickle rehab. And of course, being the guy he is, he made us the header for the Saito. One of the headers we have. He says, this is December in California. Yeah, Warren, we know. Warren, rub it in. And this is his front yard. Now he sent us actually that Christmas decoration that we have in the front of our property. But look at this. The only thing you need, Warren, is no snow. And he says, this is his wife Ramona, his dogs. And they're sitting out here raking leaves while Wendy's shoveling snow. Well, Warren, I don't know what to say other than we're envious of you. Peeps will be out there. Warren has birds, by the way. I wish he'd send me some pictures of he's got parrots and stuff. Anyway, thanks, War. This great tool, which I've used over and over, he took a knife blade, put some sticky back sandpaper around it, but tell everybody what you forgot to do. You forgot to take the blade out. So here he is bleeding all over his plane like a stuck pig, like a porcupine. Oh, mate, you're supposed to take the blade off. See how nice this trimmed out? Now you can get in there with that. Take the blade out. Don't be a macho. Yeah, good for you.
This way you can lean down and get into your work here.
Yeah. Notice he still has the blade. He's very macho. When he rides his Harley, he refuses to wear a helmet or a shirt or shoes. He's going riding barefoot today. Anyway, this is always trying to dress off all the inner edges. And what you want to do is try not to get all of this off. Just get it smooth. You know what I mean? Just get the high spots off. But you got the glass adding to the same thing in here. Just get in there. Get one of those little rubber gumbies in there. True, I'm not making this up. When I use the tool, I take the blade out. I only leave the blade on so it sticks. Yeah, he's laughing. At least you stopped bleeding on me. Holy mackerel.
If I took the blade out, then I'd have to put the blade back in. You see?
Well, you save all that time running to the hospital for stitches. Anyway, what's real significant here, now, as soon as he's finished with this sand out, he's going to put the cowling, bolt it in place, and then do the final dressing off so you have a real nice mating line there.
Look, see? This fits right in here. Look at that.
Perfect. You're a man among men. There's no doubt about it.
See?
The cowl in place, the last thing, you want to get that flat edge. Get it dressed off. You got fiberglass on everything now. Just pick up all the high spots on that. That'll look real nice when there's a spinner on there. Then you want to work your way down from that top corner down right to the spinner to see if you got any spot where it doesn't match up real well. It should be pretty close though. Now take the block and go around the corners so you get the corners the long way. You want to get all those edges in. Because once you start putting the dope on it, you know, it's got to match at this point in time. Finger on there and see if it's nice and smooth. Oh yeah. Well, we're coming up on the end of this video. We're going to finish Mike's little project here. We expect Dave Midgley down here a little later today. And he's got the carbon wing plane on the next video. We're going to try to do some paint work. We'll see if Midgley did his half of the thing. He got it up into white already, I think. I get to see the plane assembled in one piece. Hold it up. I want to see what the side profile is going to look like. All right, that looks pretty good. Like the flying profile. Yeah, that's going to look nice. Nice mean-looking cowling. Yeah, the rudder shape is nice too. Did a nice job on the rudder. Nice job on the fillets. Nice wingtips. Yeah, I think that's going to be a nice plane. Now, you're going to take it home over the weekend. And when it comes back, it's going to be sanded and ready. You got tissue? You want to do the tissue one, or you need me to do the tissue?
No, I can do it.
Okay. Tissued up, get it ready for silver. You need dope? Okay. Yeah, we really need dope, right? We only got 2,000 gallons here.
Oh man, these are real stiff.
Yeah, that's stiff. I think you should just point blank give me the plane.
Yeah. Yahoo. Nice.
All right, the next time we see this, it'll be ready. You did a good job, my boy. I'm proud of you. That really did come out nice. That's got the look you want?
Yeah.
It's got a real nice, friendly look. Even Peeps approves.
Not bad for the first plane.
We're going to end the video. Mike's already home doing his homework. These are going to be some special tune pipe parts that I'm making up for Kurt Molinex's Corsair. And I hope real soon we'll have some pictures of that. I'm just polishing up the mandrels. One of the maintenance things I do in between every so many shots. These are solid TFE Teflon mandrels. But again, we found that wax material. It looks like those pipes are working out fine, so what's going to happen in the near future, we're going to be doing a lot more work with tune pipes, making them, taking old ones apart, seeing if we can find better resin systems, things like that. We already have a 500-degree resin system, so Kurt is actually going to be the first one to have a 500-degree pipe. One of the rewards I treat myself to at the end of every evening of hard work. I try to lay this on the floor or look at it from a lot of different angles. Don't even have the cockpit installed yet, but just get an idea if I'm going to like that shading and highlighting and some of the little details. But so far, I guess we're as happy with the project as we possibly could be. It really has, I mean, the look that I had envisioned, the short, fat bulldog look. This is not a long, sleek, slender, skinny airplane. It's got that beefy look like a Thunderbolt does. I think when it has the clear on it, it's really going to be something special. I'm really hoping it's going to buff out like a champ. It has been raining for the last 2 or 3 days in a row, nothing but rain. And I'm not going to take any chance at all with the clear. I mean, I always tell other people, if you're in doubt and you're going to spray the clear, it's better just to wait. And especially with Dave coming down for the weekend with our carbon wing test plane, we don't want to take any chances. I mean, we're not in any real rush here. We'll get the clear on in probably the middle of next week. This will be just one more step in the adventure. I mean, from almost every angle, it's a bulldog. Final thing I wanted to mention, I'm going to be going to England this fall, and I'll probably, and if Elliot can pull some strings, get to see the last flyable Typhoon that's still flyable in England. As far as I know, and I could be wrong, they still have one flyable. And what I'm going to try to do is get a photo shoot of that plane. And then when I come back to the United States, Frank Finelli has offered to the editor of Flying Models do a real extensive photo shoot with this plane. And what we're going to try to do is marry them together in such a way so it would be like one of these computer-generated pictures with the 2 Typhoons up on the gear. So I can't wait to get the gear on this. Anyway, we were going to see you on the next tape. I don't know if you like the highlighting or if you think it looks overdone, underdone. I certainly welcome everybody's feedback. We got to go finish up Molinex's pipe and basically dream the dreams of this, in my book, I think is going to be, and maybe I'm wrong. If somebody has a correction, I'll accept it, the world's first 91 powered stunt ship. If somebody else has done that, competed at the Nats, full competition finish. As far as I know, this is the world's first, and I always like being the world's first instead of the world's fifth. Anyway, see you on the next video. Thanks again to Ken Clapson. We certainly are enjoying, all the guys that have been in the shop have been oogling on and putting their fingers through it. I think it's going to be an exciting plane, and a month from now we're going to be flying it. We'll have the Zetron in there. I'll end on this note. May even get a spinner with a big 4-blade. This ought to really be good. Anyway, see you on the next tape. And please share the tapes. Share them with everybody. We got a great summer coming up, and I hope you'll share every minute of it with us.